Is your current hoist constantly breaking down and ready to be retired? If you're looking for a replacement, have you ever considered a pneumatic hoist instead of another electric unit? Could an air hoist actually be more reliable and a better fit for your application? In this video, we'll break down the air versus electric debate to help you decide which one is truly the best fit for your facility.
My name is Ben, this is the Lifting and Rigging channel, and today I'm joined by Ben Mullins, and he is going to help us compare air and electric hoists so you can better decide which is the right hoist for your facility. So Ben, I guess the first question is what is an air hoist?
An air hoist is a hoist that is powered exclusively by pneumatic technology. So as opposed to having an electric current run through it, it's all done from a purely 100% mechanical design. As long as we plug this up to our air connection, we have power. So no electricity or any other kind, just compressed air coming in, powering these internal components. When you lift and lower, you're allowing that air to come into the hoist and turn the components that allow everything to work.
So what are the pros of a pneumatic hoist, of air hoist?
Well, the first one I think is the fact that because there are no electrical components in there, there's no electrical components that can be damaged. So it allows the hoist to operate in a more robust fashion in environments that could be considered caustic. The second, and probably equally important, is as long as you keep the internal parts maintained and you keep proper lubrication to it, you've got proper PSI and CFM from your compressor, it never needs to stop. It's never going to need to cool down because we never allow the components to heat up. One, there are no electrical components in there, so nothing that's generating a spark or natural heat. And the natural heat that's created just through friction and the ideas of all the components working together, as that compressed air, as soon as you put it into an environment, all the air is looking to do is find the escape hatch, right? And as the air is decompressing going through the hoist, it's becoming more cool. We're using that temperature to cool the internal components of the hoist. Electrical hoist, even the best ones in the market, at one point are going to work so hard that they have generated so much heat that they are overheating, and the only thing to do to get them to cool down is for them to stop operating, at least for a temporary basis. So Ben, one of the other pros is what we call infinitely variable speed. Infinitely variable speed is the ability to control the speed on an analog level with just the device that you're operating your pennant with. So what I mean by an analog level is most people look at these buttons or toggles as exactly that, as like a digital signal, like on or off. So when I hit this, it goes up,
down.
Exactly. The amount of pressure that I exert on each of these toggles is going to be directly reflected in the speed of that hoist. So me being either able to have infinitely variable speed or to quote unquote feather this hoist allows me to, as an operator, I can get to where I'm going and put my load hook exactly where I need it to be on the first time, as opposed to jogging the hoist, which is what we see a lot of in the industry, where you see operators doing this. That's called jogging. It's inefficient because it's a waste of the operator's time, because they're going too far or they're not going far enough, and then they have to stop back and they have to adjust, versus you saw what I just did with the jogging. Now, as opposed to that, you're doing this. And I can control the speed as delicately as I want to make sure that that pick point rests right where my hook is going to land. And then I can get back to lifting and get down the line. Now, if we use an electrical hoist to do that, press that button down. Now, is the speed on that reflected, or is it only the speed that the button is?
Yeah, one speed.
One speed. Being able to have a finer control with the load that you're lifting is going to result in less damage to that load. If you have shock load, depending on what you're lifting up, could be very fragile, and just the swinging back and forth because they missed their mark or because that
the exact
pressure
control just allows you to,
just let it guide the positioning a little bit with more of a softer touch.
What are some of the drawbacks? What are some of the cons of air hoists?
Not everybody has a compressor. If your plant doesn't have a compressor, your odds are you're probably not going to go buy one just so that you can use air hoists. You are using energy to make energy. So is that trade-off, is the value proposition for you? Do you need the benefits of the pneumatic hoist? Are they worth it to you in order to merit having a compressor on site?
So basically, air is a little bit more expensive than electricity.
One would be potential for noise pollution. Electric hoist is far quieter, and if you have many pneumatic devices operating at the same time, and that zzz sound that we were talking about, that can be a little bit loud. We try to mitigate that by having the lowest decibel level pneumatic hoist on the market, but it's not as quiet as an electric hoist.
Yeah, but this isn't that loud.
We don't think so.
Why don't you explain how air hoists can be more cost effective than an electric hoist?
Ben, I think this really comes down to total cost of ownership. So not the upfront price that you're necessarily paying for the unit, but what is the overall life cycle of that product going to be, and how are you going to enjoy the benefits of that? So you say to me, hey, Ben, your JD Neuhaus costs, we'll just say that it's twice as much as the other hoist that I'm considering. It's not, but let's just say that it was. And I can show you data that my product is going to last at minimum 3 times as long. The cost of ownership is what that offset's going to be, because the hoist is ultimately going to begin to start paying for itself. Your duration of life is longer, your service intervals are longer, and the amount of service it's going to require is smaller. So you're going to spend less on service and repairs, you're going to have longer gaps in between, and you're ultimately going to have a longer life cycle of the hoist itself, to say nothing of this will never need to cool down. It can run all the time.
So really you need to balance what's most important to you right now.
Correct.
Is it your upfront cost or is it your long-term cost?
Correct. If being inexpensive is really your only concern, it's a hard argument to make against electric, because it is a cheaper unit to manufacture. A lot of people, I think, don't really care to know too much about the nuances of the hoist, might not even know that something like a pneumatic hoist exists, and that might only be because the building that they've worked in has only ever had electric hoists.
Where does the air come from that you're going to run these hoists off of?
It comes from the compressor that you need to have in your plant. Most manufacturing facilities, we find, typically have air power available at some point.
If you're running pneumatic tools, is it the same air that
Absolutely.
you can run? So a lot of electrical hoists, they have radio controls. Are you limited to a pendant control with an air
You're
hoist?
not, actually. We have multiple control options. You absolutely can use remote controls with air.
What are some of the applications or the environments where an air hoist truly thrives?
That's a great question, Ben. One is just your high production. Any place that's in a general manufacturing facility and they're just moving, they're banging out their product 3 shifts, 7 days a week, nonstop, a pneumatic option is probably the way to go. Another area where it might be prudent in order to go with a pneumatic hoist is if you have an environment that requires an explosion-proof or a spark resistance classification. A grain processing plant. If I told you that there was such a high concentration of grain dust in the air that it could be considered flammable and explode, well, every air hoist is explosion-proof by default, just by being an air hoist. So you actually require expensive equipment and accessories in order to turn an electric into that. A great one would be paper mill plants. We're extremely popular in the paper manufacturing industry. Paper plants, by their definition, are high capacity, high production, high heat, and high moisture. All of those things are existing at the same time. You don't want steam being shot into a piece of machinery that's got tons of electronic components on the inside. That's probably not going to work out. High production, caustic, moisture, dirt, extreme temperatures, those are the kind of places we excel. We actually have a special set of what we call our Subsea hoists, very popular with the government. Not that I'm endorsing that anybody do this, but as long as you get it out and get it resurfaced when you're done, our air hoists will actually operate underwater.
One of the biggest concerns that people might have with an air hoist is a safety concern. What happens if you are under load and you lose air pressure?
So if you were to run this hoist and your power goes out, it'll just stop where it was. You actually have to apply air to move the brake away to allow our rotor to spin. So without the air pushing the brake away from the rotor, the brake's gonna slam back down and keep the hoist from going up or down.
So if someone's made the decision, air hoist is right for me, how do they get one?
Contact your local Mazzella distributor, I think would probably be their best bet.
Hopefully this video gave you the information you need to weigh the pros and cons of electric versus pneumatic hoists. Whatever hoist you need, Mazzella can help. We can help you determine the right hoist for your application and keep your hoist running through proper maintenance and inspections. Contact us through the link below. If you found this video useful, informative, entertaining, or you just feel like being friendly, hit that like button so we can get this information out to everyone who needs it. Subscribe so you never miss a video. Remember, safe rigging is smart rigging. My name is Ben. Stay safe out there.